Elisabeth Klement. I'm originally from Estonia, but I've lived and worked in the Netherlands already for a decade at least. I'm a graphic designer. I run my studio as well as a bookshop called San Serriffe in the center of Amsterdam. And my practice kind of envelops in many forms, from designing publications, different printed matter, to organizing events, curating shows, many different kinds of formats. I guess there's a big thing that one gets from studies is a group of people that they study and graduate with. So it gives you a very good sort of network and grounding in practices that are contemporary to yours, as well as shared mindset and a sort of a kind of juice that you leave school with. So I would say that the preparation in life would be getting these sorts of important connections for yourself. And then maybe my bigger understanding in life after school and in school is that there should be a little bit of a bridge or a bigger distance between the two, just because I feel that a lot of potential and dreaming needs to be happening in school, and then to have the enthusiasm to leave school with and sort of wanting to create that own world around you after school as well. That's what you want to leave with, and I think my sort of educational situations have provided me with that. So a lot of what I do also is about creating a context for work to exist in, or people's connections to exist in. The summer school started from basically a kind of like a collision of interests. One, having an interest in what's happening in Estonia, this very small, very much outside of the sort of design center of Europe and in the world as well, little part of the world in which we felt there was a lot of interesting spaces to work with or practices, and we just had this real urge of inviting people over. And also at that moment when we started with the summer school, we felt that there's a lot of space for curricular activities that maybe don't follow this kind of scope of producing a work, or working only in an individual form, which we felt at that moment a lot of education was around. So we were interested in themes of collectivity, group work, working towards non-tangible graphic design outputs, and a lot of overlappings of different practices. And it felt like, summer being the B-side of winter and kind of professional life, that could give the space for this to happen. So then it was at the moment when we started a little bit of a special destination. So always we could kind of extend the invitation, and people would always say I want to come teach. It sounds great, never been there. So then thanks to that, and on the other hand, although gentrification had largely already started rolling in Tallinn, there was still a lot of spaces that were quite derelict, or from the Soviet times factories, and these spaces that we could, for very little money or through connections, have. We rented a train once to have a workshop on, that we built the sauna on in the countryside, and these kinds of things that is probably not possible to do here, or it would take years of negotiations. We managed to make happen there, and it was there was opportunity and space. And we had a lot of energy. And then at one moment we felt like the energy had run out of us, and that we would want to have an actual summer holiday as well. So then we stopped for a bit. It was I think in total a 10-day period in which there was 2 workshops and some days off also for different activities. So that was I think around 30 or 40 participants actually around the world came together. Yeah. The outcome was a non-tangible outcome. The outcome of the summer school was really different things, like I don't know, once, yeah, as I mentioned the sauna already from one workshop, there was maybe a performance, maybe a sound piece, different types of formats of making something. Yeah, there was maybe really the sort of pressure on getting away from formats that we would very easily kind of fall into and think about what does communication mean in relation to anything else that we could work with, and what do the skills that everyone brings together kind of point us towards. Pieter is my partner in life as well, and we actually individually both have a past in interest in self-publishing. I graduated from the Rietveld in 2010, which was also not only the after years of the first recession, or not the first, but like most recent recession, and Pieter has not graduated from graphic design or any kind of design education. Maybe that's very good to like say on film as well, because people always mistake that. But he has run different events around publishing, and at this moment, around like 2008, 2009, 2010, this was really coming to like a surface in the Netherlands and Europe and the world in general. So then we started organizing kind of small bookshop events with Laura in Estonia. And so at that moment also, I don't know, we kind of felt like all the money was running out in Amsterdam of the publishing world, and we needed to figure out how kind of community could run together in a space. So the sort of budget cuts kind of pushed us towards founding something, and that something was a space foremost, and then the books were kind of like a means to pay the rent, and we wanted to host in the space events around, we could say publishing and whatnot. So the bookshop is financed through the sales of books. We have over the years gotten funding for different kinds of activities also, and that's from either the Stimulerings or Mondrian funds, and actually the AFK, which is the Amsterdam Funds for Kunst. But that's not something that we rely on, and I think that's a really direct outcome of the starting from like recession, because you could see that everything that was dependent on only surviving through funding was so fragile. So we thought, okay, we need to develop a little bit of an idea how to do this without having any kind of interruption of our plans with income. Yeah, I mean, of course, if you have a bookshop, it's quite easy to imagine how something reaches the world. But and then so like the activity of publishing maybe is a sort of a very easy and a direct line for me. But I think the idea of like making work through which you can find common ground or shared interests with others is really like an important thing for me. So then this act of producing something in an edition and trying to reach others with it is kind of a self-given one. But it's true, a lot of the things that I made, I felt that it's not a problem to circulate them myself and print things on demand, or find ways in which they can be distributed. So often when I make something, like an interview form is a very common form for me to work in as well, actually. And thinking about how can I share that conversation with someone, with others, and then, I guess print comes really naturally. I think I'm a really, this is potentially my own pitfall, but I think I'm just much more interested in how I can not think about these things actively, actually, and really consider like how for the form of something, either you have other constraints deciding on the design, like the budget, or I don't know, recently I just made 2 interviews. We had to we were working on something with Laura, and we, as a byproduct of that also, we wanted to publish 2 interviews we made, one with Experimental Jet Set and one with Valentine Houtals, and we just felt, okay, we really want to share these interviews now, so we need to print them and make them, and the time constraint was so short, so the design becomes very simple and manageable in that sense, and you think that, okay, these are the conditions I can work with, and it has to get out. So the visual kind of play or emphasis on thinking about sales, you don't kind of have time for that, so it falls away. Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like a grander thing than it is, but I think we printed a small edition to begin with, 100 copies, because it happened in the context of an educational setup, and we really wanted to make sure that the students could get the publication, and because we had the research part funded, so we thought it would be great to just like give that initial 100 copies away, and then if someone wants to give some kind of donation, we're going to reprint it, I think end of this year, and then it will be a bit of a bigger edition, and then probably we can fix the mistakes that were still in the text as well. But it was really to do with the fact that there's an occasion, we have to get it out, and then we know that using means like risography, you can go back and revisit and reprint very easily, so another couple hundred is not such a problem. There's very clear historical reasons of that, of course. If you think back to eras in which this place was the only place you could go and print your maybe more challenging content, so more radical publications would get printed here, and the printers were not censored to the sort of intensity as they were in other countries. So I think there was a deep interest in having this material also distributed here, so people became sort of very familiar with this format of information, the publication. And then secondly, this whole kind of booming business of printing made way for a lot of printers to have their facilities here, be it small or large. So I think at the moment when I arrived here, and if we compare it to now, you've had a massive dying out of printers, sadly. There's only one that's still a large-scale printer that operates in the center of Amsterdam. The rest have had, for different reasons, to either move away or to close shop completely. Smaller printers as well. There used to be people who would have, like an A3 offset machine or something. They would print small runs of things. And this is all to do with much larger socio-economical shifts as well. However, this idea that there's an interest in publications and definitely value in publications is also something that's funded by the government. So a lot of makers of publications really find support easily. I wouldn't say easily as in like a generalization, but I think there is definitely an understanding for why books should be supported. And then I feel that this sort of mindset carries on through people, and still, if I go to a printer in Estonia and I look at what's printed there, I always have to laugh a little bit, because I see a couple of years ago most beautiful Swiss books printed there, anything from Sternberg printed there, and then I think, this is also the problematics of the print industry and why a lot of smaller places have had to close, and this whole like constraints of budgets and funding and so on. And it's understandable, people look for ways to print things in a way in which everyone involved in publishing could get a fair cut, which is really not the case. Yeah. That is really not an easy question, and maybe the answer has so many folds to it that I'm not sure that I can cover it all. But I think if that comes down to a single thing for me, it is to create an understanding of how much power and agency they actually have in creating the working conditions for themselves that they want and could have, and that during their education they find out in which ways they can and want to work, because there's a whole universe of different types of design practices that you can have, and it's not only a studio practice, and it's not only a solitude like existence of working on commissions, and I think this is something that I really hope that they understand through seeing the different practices that their teachers have, and that's why I think it's very important that they get an insight into the things that we are also working on, or how we're working on, and that there's also a diversity of these practices within education. Somehow, and I think that happened to me, and it still happens to a lot of people. They leave school and they think, okay, is the phone gonna ring and someone's gonna ask me for that amazing job? Yet that's something that's never happened to me, and it happens to so few people that something like this comes about. So I think what's very important is for everyone to understand that when they are in school, they're the people they are in school with, not only in their department but within the whole school, they are their contemporaries. They will be later their collaborators, commissioners, people they initiate amazing projects with. So these connections are very important to nurture and to really build these amazing bridges already while studying, and so that once you go out of school, that you're not alone, that you've sort of built yourself a raft of amazing potential, and it will take some years. And I think that there's a sort of time cap always people feel that success has, whereas you study something and you kind of strive to do that in one way or another, hopefully for a long period. So it's always important to kind of look at the large picture, and how a practice is not only something that exists in a square on Instagram and has like a story timeline restriction on it, but it's something that that you will be busy with working on these things that you pick up from school for a decade. So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of small things to unpack always when thinking about this question, and there's not a singular answer that I can give. However, I feel like if I try to keep that in the back of my mind whenever I'm busy giving assignments or giving class or talking about problems or obstacles my students face in their work, it's so important that I, for myself, try to refer back to my own struggles and kind of bring them into that as well.